What if I told you there's more historical evidence that Jesus existed than for Socrates, Alexander the Great, or even Julius Caesar? Yeah, the carpenter's son, the wandering preacher from Nazareth, the one many call the Messiah, and others claim is myth. But here's the twist. For centuries, skeptics whispered that Jesus was a legend, a fabrication, a story meant to control the masses. But the deeper you dig, the more uncomfortable the truth becomes. Because history doesn't just support Jesus' existence. It challenges everything we thought about how history is remembered. For years, fringe theories have floated through documentaries and internet forums. Jesus never existed. He was just another sun-god myth, a copy of older religions. And yet, historians, not preachers, serious secular scholars say otherwise. Not because they believe the miracles, but because the evidence is simply too strong to ignore. So, how does a barefoot Jewish rabbi in a backwater Roman province leave behind a bigger historical footprint than some of the most powerful emperors? Let's find out. The story of Jesus isn't based on one dusty scroll. We have multiple independent sources, the Gospels, written within decades, not centuries, Paul's letters, some just 20 years after Jesus' death. Eyewitnesses were still alive when these were circulated. Compare that to Alexander the Great. Our earliest biographies of him come over 400 years after his death. We believe in Socrates, yet everything we know about him comes from his students, mostly Plato. No writings from Socrates himself, not a single eyewitness document, and yet, no one doubts Socrates. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Jesus isn't just mentioned by his followers. Tacitus, the Roman historian, not a fan of Christians, writes in 115 AD that Jesus was executed under Pontius Pilate. Josephus, a Jewish historian, mentions Jesus twice. One refers to James, the brother of Jesus who was called Christ. Pliny the Younger, Lucian, and even the Talmud all acknowledge a man named Jesus who lived, preached, and was executed. These aren't sermons, they're secular, often hostile accounts. They had nothing to gain from preserving his story, and yet they did. So why do people still say, oh, there's no proof Jesus existed? Simple. It's not about evidence, it's about implications. Because if Jesus existed, then maybe the things he said matter. Maybe history isn't just politics and kings. Maybe it's something deeper. We accept thin scraps of evidence for ancient rulers, a coin here, a mention there. But when it comes to Jesus, suddenly the bar is raised. Why? Because Jesus didn't just change government, he claimed to change eternity. Let's be honest. If Jesus was just a failed revolutionary, his story should have died with him. Instead, within decades, people across the Roman Empire were risking their lives to follow him. These weren't power-hungry rulers. They were fishermen, tax collectors, widows, slaves, and yet their writings, their songs, their testimonies survive to this day, copied, preserved, multiplied. Historians ask, how did a movement with no money, no army, and no political power outlive Rome? Maybe it's because what they were following wasn't just a man. So yes, Jesus existed, and we know it with more certainty than many ancient icons taught in textbooks. The real question is, why does that make some people so uncomfortable? Because evidence isn't the problem, implication is. If Jesus existed and said the things he said, then the story doesn't stop with history. It becomes a question we all have to answer. Was he just a man? Or was he something more? Thanks for watching. And if this made you think differently, subscribe and keep exploring the conspiracies hidden in Scripture. The truth is rarely where we expect it.